Corporal Elias Ward had been stationed on Dren 9 for 6 months, and every day felt like a punishment wrapped in boredom. The planet was a damp jungle moon orbiting a blue gas giant, known more for its acidic rains than any strategic importance. Humanity's base here wasn't large, just a collection of metal domes, antenna towers, and the hum of life support systems trying to fight the planet's corrosive atmosphere. It was supposed to be a research outpost, a cooperation project between humans and the Thailand, a 6-limbed alien race known for their intelligence and social hierarchies. The Thailand had requested human protection after a series of raids by an outlaw faction called the Vrax Marauders, aliens who didn't recognize the interstellar treaties and saw hybrid colonies like Dren 9 as fair game. Elias didn't think much of his deployment at first. He'd fought in wars before, on Mars, on Titan, and in orbit around Europa. Compared to that, this was paradise. Guard duty, occasional patrols, and long nights under the hum of alien stars. Then, one day, everything changed. The raid. The alarm shrieked through the outpost at 0200 hours. Elias was halfway through a maintenance report when the red lights flared, bathing everything in blood-colored light. "Incoming hostiles," shouted Lieutenant Yara over comms. Vrax ships dropping from orbit, defensive positions now. The ground trembled as the first blast struck. Elias grabbed his plasma rifle and sprinted out of the barracks. The air smelled like ozone and burning vegetation. Blue lightning danced across the horizon where alien cannons tore into the jungle canopy. He reached the east sector wall, where half a dozen Thailand civilians had taken shelter behind a cargo hauler. They were terrified, small, scaled creatures with translucent eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Among them, Elias noticed a smaller figure, a child, no taller than his waist, clutching what looked like a woven talisman. Inside the shelter, Elias shouted, motioning to the reinforced bunker nearby. The Thailand adults moved quickly, but the child froze as another explosion went off nearby, sending debris flying. A support beam snapped, falling toward her. Without thinking, Elias threw himself forward, shoving the child out of the way. The beam crashed against his shoulder armor, throwing him to the ground. Pain burned through his side. He heard someone screaming. Maybe it was himself. Then he saw the Vrax warriors breaching the perimeter, hulking, armored figures with jagged plasma spears. He pushed the child behind him and raised his weapon. The stand. Elias fired until his rifle overheated, each blast tearing into the oncoming raiders. His HUD flickered with warnings, ammunition low, vitals critical, but he didn't stop. The Vrax moved with brutal speed. One leaped the barricade, blade swinging for his chest. Elias blocked with his rifle, felt the impact shatter the weapon, and countered with a combat knife. The alien fell, hissing. Another came, and another. He fought them back step by step, shielding the child behind his armor. Plasma burned his arm. Another strike grazed his thigh. Still, he stood his ground. "Run," he shouted to the girl. But she didn't. She pressed against him, trembling, small hands clutching his vest. When the final blow came, a spear through his side, he barely felt it. He only heard the child scream his name in a voice that shouldn't have known it. Then the world went dark. The aftermath. When Elias woke, he wasn't in the outpost anymore. The ceiling above him was made of smooth crystal panels, glowing faintly. A faint hum filled the air, medical equipment, alien in design. He tried to move, but pain shot through his body. A voice spoke softly beside him. "You're awake." He turned his head and saw her, the Thailand queen, flanked by guards in ceremonial armor. Her presence radiated calm power, and her eyes, large, opalescent, and intelligent, studied him closely. You saved one of my daughters, she said quietly. The youngest of my brood. Elias blinked. Your daughter? Yes, the queen said. You stood between her and the Vrax. You took 8 blades meant for her heart. He didn't remember the number. He only remembered the fear in the child's eyes. I was just doing my job, he muttered. The queen tilted her head. Your kind has a strange definition of duty. The Vrax are gone. They saw what you did and fled. They fear you now. Fear me? Elias chuckled weakly. I barely survived. Her gaze softened. They saw a human bleed for someone not of his species. They saw courage without advantage. To them, and to us, that is a kind of power no weapon can match. The galaxy reacts. News of what happened on Dren 9 spread fast. In an era where most interstellar relationships were held together by politics and treaties, the story of one human soldier saving an alien child with his body was something else entirely. It was real. Within days, hollow feeds across the sectors were broadcasting the story. Human soldiers shields alien child from attack. Dren 9 incident sparks diplomatic surge. One man's sacrifice changes galactic politics. Even the Galactic Council took notice. Ambassadors quoted his act in their speeches. The word human became synonymous with something dangerous, not because of strength, but because of unpredictable compassion. Elias didn't understand any of it. He was still recovering, arm in a sling, ribs wrapped, walking the corridors of the Thylan capital ship with a limp. Every Thylan he passed bowed to him slightly, touching their forehead in respect. One day, the queen called him to the grand chamber. Her daughter, the same child he'd saved, was there, shyly hiding behind her mother. I wanted you to see her again, the queen said. She hasn't spoken since the attack. Until today. The child peeked up at him. Her voice was quiet but clear. Are you really made of iron? Elias smiled softly. Not quite, kid. Just very stubborn. The queen laughed, a melodic, chiming sound. She calls you Ironheart. The choice. As his wounds healed, Command sent him orders. Return to human space for debrief and reassignment. But when the Thylan delegation heard, they protested. The queen herself petitioned the council, requesting that Elias remain as a liaison, a living bridge between species. He didn't know what to say. He'd never thought of himself as a hero. He was just a soldier who refused to let a child die. But when he saw the child again, placing a hand over his chest where his heart still beat faintly under the scars, he knew the answer. He stayed. Months passed, and Elias became the first human advisor to the Thylan High Court. His presence changed everything: diplomacy, trust, even how the Thylan warriors trained. Where once they measured strength by kills, now they spoke of honor, endurance, and empathy. The queen once told him, "Your kind has something the rest of us forgot. You fight not because you must, but because you care." Ending. The Legend of Ironheart. Years later, Elias stood on the balcony of the Thylan citadel, watching the twin suns rise. His body bore scars that would never fade, but his heart was at peace. The child he'd saved was now a young woman, a princess studying medicine, determined to heal rather than fight. She often visited him, still calling him Ironheart. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked one morning. He shook his head. "Never." She smiled faintly. "They still talk about you, you know, across the colonies. They say one human's act of kindness ended a war." He laughed softly. "Then they're giving me too much credit." "No," she said, her eyes shimmering with the same light as her mother's. "They're giving you exactly what you earned." As the suns climbed higher, Elias closed his eyes. For the first time in his long, violent career, he didn't feel like a soldier anymore. He felt like a part of something greater, something worth bleeding for. And somewhere across the stars, the legend of Ironheart, the human who shielded the alien child, continued to spread. Because sometimes it only takes one person to remind the galaxy what being human truly means.